When you're looking for KitchenAid innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, will help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified KitchenAid appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this day. Hey, glad you're along. It's on the air, off the presses. We're going to talk about the longest running television show in history today and some of the major changes that took place yesterday, and also some new video surfacing or resurfacing on the Ray Rice incident. We'll talk about that with our special guest today here, 436-MeTV option 11. Do call in, turn down the sound. And welcome back to the program here on a Monday morning. Of course, it is Connect with me on MeTV Fresno, live on Comcast Channel 187 and 43.6. And now you're watching us live, of course, on 13.1. That's also MeTV. You can watch the replay of this program if you catch us midway or just want to watch the replay just for kicks. Starting at 2 o'clock today on YouTube and 8 o'clock tonight on Biz TV. It's, you know, we're all connected here on Connect with Me. It's MeTV Fresno. We're here for the full 60 minutes, and we'll be talking today about the longest running television show in history. We'll talk about that, and also Ray Rice. You remember that one player for the Baltimore Ravens? He was suspended for a couple of games, but now some new video has resurfaced regarding that elevator incident with his fiancee and now wife. We'll talk about that with our special guest, but the longest running TV show is Meet the Press. They had some major changes on Meet the Press starting yesterday. Chuck Todd is now the host. He replaces David Gregory, who did it for many years. Of course, Gregory replaced Tim Russert, who unfortunately passed away quite a few years ago, and he was a mainstay on that program. He was at the top of his game when he passed away, Tim Russert. But in recent years, Meet the Press has gone downhill as far as the ratings are concerned. Yesterday, Chuck Todd interviewed the president, talking about Afghanistan, talking about Syria, talking about ISIS. It was a long interview. It was his debut as host of Meet the Press.
We are going to be able to not just blunt the momentum of ISIL, we are going to systematically degrade their capabilities. We're going to shrink the territory that they control, and ultimately we're going to defeat them.
Long way from when you described them as a JV team.
Well,
was that bad intelligence or your misjudgment?
Keep in mind, I wasn't specifically referring to ISIL. I've said that regionally there were a whole series of organizations that were focused primarily locally, weren't focused on the homeland, because I think a lot of us, when we think about terrorism, the model is Osama bin Laden and 9/11. And the point that I was...
You don't believe these people...
Not yet, but they can evolve. And I was very specific at that time. What I said was, not every regional terrorist organization is automatically a threat to us that would call for a major offensive. But what is absolutely clear is that ISIL, which started as Al-Qaeda in Iraq and arose out of the U.S. invasion there and was contained because of the enormous efforts of our troops there, then shifted to Syria, has metastasized, has grown, and now we're going to have to deal with them in a systematic way.
They're not a JV team.
Well, they're not a JV team, but keep in mind that we anticipated some of these problems in the speech that I gave in West Point, several months ago.
And live on our studio now is Dennis Hart to talk about yesterday's Meet the Press interview with President Obama. Of course, Chuck Todd taking over for the departed David Gregory, who was let go by NBC. I guess ratings did him in. Of course, he replaced Tim Russert, who was just, I mean, he was as steady as a rock. Nobody did it better than Tim Russert, other than maybe Lawrence E. Spivak or Martha Roundtree. They founded and started that program back in 1947, the longest running television show in history. We'll talk about that with Dennis and take your phone calls at 436-ME-TV option 11. Also this morning, some breaking news. Ray Rice of the Baltimore Ravens, some new video has popped up on the internet regarding that domestic violence issue with his fiance/wife. We'll talk about that with Dennis as well. And your phone calls. We're back here on a Monday morning on the air, off the presses in a moment.
It's Sully and Russ on the Big Biz Show.
It's your biz.
And maybe they'll start listening to Baldwin
Now,
McCullough.
before you make any money moves, check in with the Brain Trust.
And you are starting your week off right.
Yep, Meet the Press started way back in 1947. That's a long time. It's the longest running show on television. It's still on despite all the changes. Dennis, Chuck Todd. I'm not a Chuck Todd fan. You know that. We've talked about that. But I guess what's the other choice? What's the alternative? Dennis Hart, John Mallows as host? I don't think so.
No. Well, even though we do a good job on this show, right, et cetera.
Yeah.
No, Meet the Press had been #1 in its time slot on Sunday mornings for decades. It has this great history. As you have indicated, the longest running show in the history of American television, 66 years. 1947, November it started. Now, David Gregory took over after the unfortunate early death of Tim Russert 6 years ago, 2008. Immediately, almost immediately, you could tell David Gregory was not the right host. At least I could see that. He was too hot. He did not allow his guests to speak. He would interrupt his guests. Now, remember the purpose of Sunday morning talk shows on ABC, NBC, and CBS. It's to bring people on who express opinions. Gregory would not allow them to do that. He would interrupt. I'd find myself yelling at the screen, "Just shut up, David. You brought this expert on, let him give some expertise or let her give some expertise." Instead, he would interrupt. So he was too hot for the show. The audience immediately began declining for the show. It had been #1 for most of those 60 years when Gregory took it over. It is now #3. That is a stunning turn of events. And who succeeded him? Who became #1? Bob Schieffer on Face the Nation. Bob Schieffer is in his 70s. Face the Nation is a slower-paced broadcast. Why do people watch it on Sunday mornings? Because Schieffer brings on interesting people, important people. He asks them interesting questions, listens to their answers, and allows them to put their expertise out there, or their spin. But he then questions them about it. Gregory wouldn't allow anybody to do that.
Yeah, but how do you know for sure that it was David Gregory that brought those ratings down? How do you know that people just didn't get tired of watching Meet the Press? Maybe they got disgusted with the format. How can we pin the donkey on David Gregory?
Well, because it's relatively simple. Meet the Press was #1 for 60 years. David Gregory becomes the host. It becomes #3. What changed in Meet the Press? It was the host that changed in Meet the Press. Now, they've had 12 hosts in the 66 years of that broadcast.
Yeah.
Wonderful people have done that show. Garrett Utley, Tom Brokaw, Chris Wallace has done Meet the Press, etc., as the host. David Gregory was simply too hot for the format. On Sunday morning, people don't want a slick anchor like a David Muir, who's now the new anchor of World News Tonight on ABC. This slicked back, nicely coiffed guy who introduces stories about shark attacks and somebody being trapped in the ice in Minnesota. It's not what they want on Sunday mornings. People who tune into a Sunday morning political affairs show want to hear substance. They want to hear candidates. They want to hear solutions. They want to hear some arguments, etc. But what they don't want is this highly produced, oh, we've got this Twitter feed coming in, and that's what Meet the Press had gone to under David Gregory. They had the Twitter board. They had the Facebook thing. Viewers on Sunday morning didn't want that. They want conversation. They want to hear information. They don't care what 35 people in Dubuque care about what they're talking about, etc. They want information about substance. Gregory was simply the wrong guy.
One of the things I read about Meet the Press and why they changed is because it lost its insider information track. In other words, you know, if you tuned in on Meet the Press on Sunday morning, they always had the inside on the inside of what was going on at the Capitol or the White House, and they lost that edge, Dennis. They lost it.
Well, that was partly because of the host. I mean, Russert was the connected guy. I mean, you and I would agree that Tim Russert was the perfect host for Meet the Press. Yeah. He was rumpled. He was not your quintessential anchor. He was brilliant. He knew everything about politics. And what his forte was, as you'll remember, is he'd bring people on the air and allow them to speak. And then he'd have the board. He'd put up the board of their quotes from a year earlier, 2 years earlier, or play video where they had said the exact opposite. And in a respectful way, he'd say, well, this appears to be directly opposed, diametrically opposed to what you said a year and a half ago. Can you explain that? That took work to do that. Because your quintessential host would just allow the person to talk and say, oh, that's very interesting. That's really nice. No context whatsoever. Russert never did that. Plus, he was brilliant, of course. You remember him on election nights, where he'd have his board out there, his low-tech board, and he'd say, here are the key states. Here's what's going to happen. He knew that stuff. Chuck Todd comes from that background. That's why I think he may be the guy. We don't know. It's too early. He may be the guy for the next few years.
But wasn't Russert a political consultant for, who was it? It was an ex-president, I believe. Didn't he work in politics for a while?
I believe he did. I cannot tell you who it was. I can't tell you
I
that.
forgot who it was, but he came from a political family, political background, so he knew politics. He knew the players inside out.
Yes.
He had the contacts. Apparently, Gregory didn't have that.
No, and
maybe they didn't like him or trust him.
Well, David Gregory, remember what his background was. He had been on the Today Show for a while. He was a substitute host on Today. He had done some nightly news. His forte was being the jack of all trades. On Today, he could interview somebody and also do a cooking segment. You could never see Tim Russert visualize him doing a cooking segment. It's just not going to happen because that's not who he is. He's this hard-boiled Politico, which is what people want on Sunday mornings. I mean, who's doing the Sunday morning shows? Bob Schieffer, who's covered politics for 50 years. George Stephanopoulos, former key aide to Bill Clinton. He's doing the Sunday morning show. That's what people are interested in, and that's why I think Meet the Press lost it. Now, again, this is not your quintessential host, Chuck Todd. He doesn't look like an anchor. I think that's a positive. What does he look like? A political geek, doesn't he? He's got the goatee. He's clearly smart. He's covered the White House, covered politics for years. He could be the guy. He could be. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay, talking to Dennis Hart about Meet the Press, the longest running television show. You know, when you consider this thing has been around 66 years, and what, MeTV's only been around, what, 2 or 3?
You're as old as Meet the Press, though. You're 66,
I do remember Meet the Press when I was a kid. We used to watch it. 436 MeTV, option 11. Do call in. Do ask a question. We're going to continue our conversation and get into the breaking news of the day this morning, and that involves Ray Rice, the running back for the Baltimore Ravens. Back in just a moment.
Considering solar? Whether you're ready to buy now or just exploring your options, the consultants at Solar Negotiators are here to help you. A call to Solar Negotiators is like calling 5 solar companies at once. You see, when local established solar contractors have gaps in their schedule, they call Solar Negotiators to fill them. Right now, get 5 years of panel cleaning and maintenance or $1,000 off your new solar panels. So stop wasting your time searching and call Solar Negotiators, because when contractors compete for your business, you win.
Back here talking about Meet the Press. It's been around 66 years and still going strong, despite the fact they've had a number of hosts on that program over the course of that time. And so, you know, Dennis, let's run a little video of David Gregory. We saw Chuck Todd yesterday. I played a clip this morning. Play a clip of David Gregory, and you can kind of do a little comparison on Chuck Todd versus David Gregory.
First of all, you gave a speech in Georgia with language that a lot of people think could be coded racially tinged language, calling the president, the first black president, a food stamp president.
Oh,
what did you mean,
David,
and what was the point?
That's bizarre. This kind of automatic reference to racism, this is the President of the United States. The President of the United States has to be held accountable. Now, the idea that, and what I said is factually true, 47 million Americans are on food stamps. 1 out of every 6 Americans is on food stamps. And to hide behind the charge of racism, I have never said anything about President Obama which is racist.
Well, what did you mean?
Well, it's very simple. He has policies, and I used a very direct analogy. He follows the same destructive political model that destroyed the city of Detroit. I follow the model that Rick Perry and others have used to create more jobs in Texas. You know, Texas, 2 out of the last 4 years, created more jobs than the other 49 states combined.
So right there, it didn't seem like he was interrupting
Newt Gingrich.
Newt too much
clip.
there.
No,
not on
but
that clip.
that's what he did though on a regular basis. I'd watch Meet the Press until I finally turned it off because I didn't like the persona. I didn't like the idea that David Gregory would bring the folks on and not allow them to talk, because that's the whole point of the show, isn't it? And that's something that obviously Chuck Todd did yesterday. He allowed his guests to talk. He did not interrupt. He would bring up some points if he thought that there was some sort of discrepancy between what they'd said earlier. That's what the quintessential host ought to be. Now, Sunday morning talk shows, remember what they're supposed to be and what they are. They have a very elite audience. It's not a big audience. It's an elite audience. It's a smart audience. People know stupid when they see it. People who watch ABC's World News Tonight are likely not watching Meet the Press on Sunday morning. People who watch an eyewitness newscast are probably not watching Meet the Press. They're there for meat, and that's what preferably, Chuck Todd will give them.
All right, let's dissect Chuck Todd's interview with the president yesterday. Did you check it out?
Sure.
You saw
Watch the whole thing.
I watched the whole thing, too. It was about 35 minutes long.
Yep.
It's all over the internet, by the way. If you want to see it, just YouTube it.
Yep.
Let's play that clip again. I played it in the monologue, and then I want to dissect this thing from A to Z. Roll it.
We are going to be able to not just blunt the momentum of ISIL, we are going to systematically degrade their capabilities. We're going to shrink the territory that they control, and ultimately we're going to defeat them.
Long way from when you described them as a JV team.
Well,
was that bad intelligence or your misjudgment?
Keep in mind, I wasn't specifically referring to ISIL. I've said that regionally, there were a whole series of organizations that were focused primarily locally, weren't focused on the homeland, because I think a lot of us, when we think about terrorism, the model is Osama bin Laden and 9/11. And the point that I was...
You don't believe these people...
Not yet, but they can evolve. And I was very specific at that time. What I said was, not every regional terrorist organization is automatically a threat to us that would call for a major offensive. But what is absolutely clear is that ISIL, which started as Al-Qaeda in Iraq and arose out of the U.S. invasion there and was contained because of the enormous efforts of our troops there, then shifted to Syria, has metastasized, has grown, and now we're going to have to deal with them in a systematic way.
They're not a JV team.
Well, they're not a JV team, but keep in mind that we anticipated some of these problems in the speech that I gave in West Point several months ago.
All right, there's a call coming in. Good morning, caller. Well, you were there. Probably waited too long to take the call. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Do call in. Be patient. We'll take your call, no problem. But I want to put Chuck Todd on the spot right now because I watched the entire interview. He didn't really challenge the president. The president did call ISIS a JV team. And as you saw in that interview, the president backed away from that as if he didn't. We have it on record. We have it on tape. Why didn't Todd challenge him?
Well, Todd did say not a JV team at the end. You heard him say that, etc. First of all, it is not.
Well, he didn't exactly challenge him on that. And I think Tim Russert did that better than anybody I've ever seen.
Well, Tim Russert was, I think, a one-off host. He was like Johnny Carson hosting the Tonight Show. It's almost impossible to replace Tim Russert. So now you're looking at the top of the game there. But there have been 11 other hosts, and they're just men, and they're just women, et cetera, et cetera.
But
so,
Russert would have put him on the spot.
Yeah, but Russert's not there. And so David Gregory is and Chuck Todd. But the point being that when you are in the White House, you are not there to put on a show. You are there to get information and allow the president to talk. What would it have gained Chuck Todd if he had interrupted the president immediately and said, that's obviously a lie, that's obviously...
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying put him on the spot like that, but in a respectful way, say, look, Mr. President, this is what you said. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, excuse me. This is mostly an observation, and then I do have a question.
Yeah.
But I don't know, if you ever watch Euronews 31.1, or there's another one from Europe that's on 66, 33.6. What I find there is when they have a discussion, they have like a Sunday morning program, what they do is, if they're talking, let's say, about the Ukraine situation, they'll have a journalist from Russia, one from the United States, one, maybe a couple from Europe. And they really discuss it. And the moderator, he keeps it going by asking the important questions. I think on our shows, they just become, I don't know, they have really no oomph, no strength. Somebody says what they want to say, and then it just kind of carried along. I just wonder if you have any comments on that.
Well, you know,
and I'll take it on the air.
That's an interesting comment. The original format of Meet the Press was meeting the press. Only guests who were newspaper reporters were there. That evolved over the decades because we're a commercial medium. The networks have to sell commercials in order to make money for their broadcast. And so in order to, quote, spice it up, the feeling was, well, newspaper reporters are these rumpled types of guys, brilliant guys. I mean, David Broder was on Meet the Press for, what, 200 times, 300 times over 30 years, et cetera, from the Washington Post. But the idea was, well, let's get other people. Let's get political consultants. Let's get political experts in. And now what the shows have largely become, to some extent, I don't want to say largely, is spin affairs. So you see a Democratic National Committee chairman. You'll see a Republican National Committee chairman. Well, what do you expect them to say? When you ask a question, they're going to spin for their particular side. So it's gotten away from the original, partly for commercial reasons in order to maintain an audience, the entertainment value. You want the fight, you want the screaming, you want the, I mean, it's not as bad as the McLaughlin group was. Remember the McLaughlin group in the original days?
Yes, I do.
When they would literally scream at each other. You'd have, Evans.
I love that show.
Oh,
by
it was
the way.
incredible in the early days. I mean,
And
literally.
you watched it.
Sure, of course. They would literally, the panels would scream at each other and interrupt each other. And McLaughlin was just there almost as the moderator to keep them apart, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, that's not information. That's a show. And it's a different thing from a Sunday morning show, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, the original format. Now, having said that, yes, they have to spice it up to get some obviously some ratings. And the reason David Gregory is not the host as we speak of Meet the Press is because he didn't get the ratings. But there has to be, I think, the Sunday morning shows, still their core function is more, not more important, but more serious than the evening newscast because you're there talking politics for an hour. That it's pure politics.
Maybe go back to the original. Get journalists, actual journalists who cover the White House and the Capitol, and they're insiders, and have that little round table. Maybe bring a political. I mean, Meet the Press used to have the roundtable journalist with one political candidate there in the middle, and they would question him.
And I think where the shows really fall down, where they become weak, is when you just have the political spinmeisters there, without the heft of the reporters to bring them down to earth. In other words, the spinmeisters are always going to spin for their side. It's always going to be, if not a lie, it's going to be, well, you know, Democrats bad, Republicans bad, and that's not the purpose of the shows.
Okay, we're talking with Dennis Hart, 436-ME-TV, option 11. A lot more to talk about today. We're going to get to a lot of things today. We're going to talk about Joan Rivers, being a journalist and a reporter overseas in a war zone, what that entails, and also we'll talk a little bit about football and some of the stuff going on in the NFL. It almost makes me just want to turn the TV off on Sunday and focus strictly on baseball, basketball starting, Dennis. So forget, soccer. We don't care about we don't care about soccer.
Soccer?
Soccer? Is that still a sport?
No, not here.
No. Back with more of Connect with Me and your phone calls in a moment.
Soccer.
Find Untamed Sports on over-the-air channel 13.8.
Oh, okay, we're on. Back here on Connect with Me. Caught me off guard there. But let me get back to Chuck Todd. And yes, I want to beat a dead horse into the ground. I want to take you back to a White House news conference the president held not too long ago, admitting to the American public, Dennis Hart and my friends out there in TV land, that he had no strategy whatsoever in Syria. You remember this news conference?
I have consulted with Congress throughout this process. I am confident that as Commander-in-Chief I have the authorities to engage in the acts that we are conducting currently. As our strategy develops, we will continue to consult with Congress, and I do think that it'll be important for Congress to weigh in, and or that our consultations with Congress continue to develop, so that the American people are part of the debate. But I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We don't have a strategy yet. I think what I've seen in some of the news reports suggests that folks are getting a little further ahead of where we're at than we currently are.
Well, and you know, I know everybody made a big deal about the tan suit. I don't care what color suit the president wears. That has no bearing on the issue of the day.
Right.
What's your strategy in Syria? He has none. Chuck Todd had him yesterday, actually taped the interview with the president on Saturday, as I understand, and played it back Sunday. Didn't even put him on the spot. I can visualize Tim Russer playing a clip of that and then questioning the president on it.
Well, I mean,
none of that yesterday.
The president made a mistake when he said we have no strategy. First off, the appropriate response, because he was, remember, having the news conference after one of the beheadings of the American journalists.
Of course.
Okay. Well, of course, the American, we had no strategy at that point. You don't make strategy in 10 minutes or 2 days. It takes a while. The president is now going to speak, as we know, this coming Wednesday, 2 days from now, outlining to the American people what we're going to do in the Middle East. It's prepping us perhaps for war. Who knows what's going to happen? So the appropriate response would have been, we're evolving it right now. I cannot speak to you of this because we are putting it together and we're going to have one. He also should have said you should not expect any country to evolve a strategy in 1 day after something transpires. It takes a while. How long did it take, by the way, for George Bush, do we remember George W. Bush, to go into Afghanistan after 9/11? A month, 5 weeks. It wasn't the next day, as people seem to want to remember. It took a month for people to sit down and say, what in the heck should we do?
Well, then the president should not have misspoken.
He misspoke.
He misspoke.
There's
you
no
don't
issue
go
with
out
that.
there in front of the world, not the country, the world, and say, we have no strategy. It makes us look weak. It makes him look weak.
I think he's pretty much admitted in some interviews in recent days that he is not into the theatrics, the optics, and he's having a tough time right now. It was a mistake,
well,
what he said.
Hey, he's president.
Things happen.
Yeah, things happen. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you got to turn down your set. Turn down your TV.
All right.
Go ahead.
What you have right there, what you're sharing, is that when the president said that he didn't have a plan for in Syria, was that he wasn't completely with satisfaction at the point of saying that there was an in place type of a operation for Syria. It wasn't, like in detail where it was satisfactory to present in front of us as the people of the nation.
Right.
So, and then he wanted to be with information too that Congress would be, be able to share in that responsibility. So really, with good candor, the president didn't say we didn't have an in-place type of operation for Syria. It was just one that would satisfy all the needs of all, the people, the president's choice, of course, and Congress, so that we're all on board with the same situation. Of course, when we handpick, the stories like this, we set in motion where, people, with this program, we have all the ability to be opinionated, which is great. But we need not to dissect and to cut back, everything. Like you want to share about his suit, and then say you need to make any difference, but you spent 15 seconds talking about it.
Yeah, the suit doesn't make any difference. Yeah, the suit is nothing.
I just really don't. I mean, we just need to be more open. Some details aren't going to be explicit. Some of the words can't be nailed down completely. I mean, but I appreciate your time, sir, and God bless you all, and God bless America.
And thank
Amen.
you. Yeah, thank you for calling. And again, no one is criticized. Well, that's not true. Right-wing talk show hosts criticize the president for anything he does, including the suits he wears. But the fact that we did not have a strategy would be expected. The president, at that point, the president had spoken just days or hours after the second beheading or so. Well, of course we don't have a strategy. How could we possibly have a strategy? But he did misspeak when he said, we don't have the strategy. You don't tell your enemies and you don't tell the world that we're unprepared. You just say we're evolving it and we're going to have it. Now he's going to speak this Wednesday afternoon or evening, we don't have a time yet, talking about what we're going to do in the Middle East. It's been several weeks now. It's a major speech. We should not be quick to, there are many things to jump on a president for, and everybody does this on talk radio. And talk radio, as I've said many times on this show, has no responsibility for governing. They just put out stupid things and
yes, but
all
if you
that.
recall, it's not only Obama who is criticized. You've had
it's every president.
It's every president, Republican or Democrat.
Right, but talk radio, but right-wing talk radio doesn't criticize Republican presidents. They criticize
they don't,
Democratic
for the most part.
presidents.
But still, if you're in that position, you're in the Oval Office, you should expect.
It's the toughest position in the world, even tougher than hosting this show.
Just expect that Nolan Ryan fastball coming your way. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead. Caller? Hello?
Yes.
Go ahead, you're on the air.
Real quick is, no president has ever had a plan to go to a war, or in Obama's case, he might have made a mistake and all that. But no matter what he says, they're going to criticize him.
Correct.
Good or bad. Okay, so we can leave all that out. And the thing is, he's done some good things, but, he's trying to get out of the wars and all that. But it's impossible for him to pull out all the truths because of what's happened in Syria and whatever, okay? So, I mean, if the people are going to criticize because he's bringing back troops, he's going to get criticized. We should take him out. And Bush, what he did, he went to Afghanistan and nobody said anything, okay? They didn't find anything there anyway. So all Obama did was pull out troops and made a promise that, made a promise that he was going to take out the soldiers and all that. But it's impossible. So no matter what president is in there, they're going to get criticized, for in and out. And the media, as far as the media is concerned, there's three channels always, stations are always going to be on his side. And then of course, the Fox station is always going to criticize him. So, I understand where you're coming from as far as being criticized either for Obama. So, who's ever there is going to have a hard task doing what they have to do. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, let me just respond very quickly. We went into Afghanistan a month and a half after we were bombed on 9/11, and of course people were in favor of that, virtually the entire American public. We also did find things because that was the home of the Taliban. We routed the Taliban in Afghanistan. We needed to go into Afghanistan. The question is, did we need to go into Iraq afterward? Now, the problem is, and this is incredibly problematic, is that we're being sucked back into the Middle East. We seemingly can't get out. Bear in mind, and we need to do something about ISIS. No question. But here's the problem, and it's going to be a problem beyond President Obama, whoever the next president is, and the president after that, is that they want us to get sucked in to the Middle East. Don't you think that ISIS, why do you think they're beheading American journalists? They want America to respond. They want us to spend blood and treasure over there. They want us to lose our men over there and spend billions of dollars. And we're going to do it because we need to cut them back. We need to help defeat them. But this is a black hole. Don't ever forget what's happening. Nobody ever comes out of the Middle East, not the Russians, not historically. Western powers, Eastern powers who get into the Middle East get sucked in. It never ends well. And we're about to go back in. Trust me, it's not as easy as we're going to bomb somebody and it's going to work. Doesn't work that way. Never works that way.
I will tell you, a solar guy, a solar owner here on the program on Thursday is a former Iraqi veteran. He fought in Iraq. He took one tour through there. And he said one of the reasons that we have this problem today is because, and I don't know if you saw the show on Thursday, he basically said it's because our current president pulled our troops out of Iraq. So once our troops left Iraq, that left the door wide open for a group like ISIS to come in from Syria and invade the country. You know why? No U.S. troops there.
Remember,
the door's wide open.
That is certainly one interpretation. But let me remind you that President Obama was elected after promising to do just that. He promised he would do it. American people elected him to do it. We don't want to be there. I mean, most Americans do not want to be in Iraq. And now it's very easy to say, well, he followed through on his promise and now he's failed. No, you elected him to do this. He's doing it. And now it's a little, I think, condescending and ignorant to say, wow, that was a mistake. That's what the American people
Well, he
elected him
made
to
the
do.
promise, but now he's paying the price. And sometimes we have to,
But you're
live
not,
with our decisions.
Right, but you're not suggesting, I would imagine, that we should send 100,000 troops back into Iraq and get them shot and killed.
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm suggesting that maybe there's a different way of looking at this, too.
There are always
All right.
different ways of looking at things, yeah.
Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning. I have a comment. This thing in Iraq, Afghanistan, in the Middle East, this is a never-ending thing.
It
No
is.
matter how much we try, we're never going to do, and nothing's ever going to come out because, first of all, these people are never going to change. Their wars are religious wars, and they're impossible. I have a nephew who did 3 tours in Afghanistan. The boy came back. He's a terrible mess.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand. We're losing our men over there, our young boys, and it's never going to end.
I'm afraid you are correct. And that's really what I was trying to say in the last couple of minutes. This is a black hole, the Middle East. Nobody ever goes in there and comes out the way they think it's going to come out. Not the Russians in Afghanistan in the 1980s. They got their rears kicked out because it is religious. And we cannot beat that.
You can't fight them. They're set in their ways. You're not going to change them, no matter how much we try.
That's correct.
They're set in their religious ways, and nobody's going to change them.
No, the reason that we're being sucked back in again is because ISIS is taking over a part of Iraq. They've already taken over a part of Syria. Now we're going to bomb them and try to get them back. You cannot win a war by bombing people. You have to occupy ground. We're not going to send troops back into Iraq because the American public would react very poorly to that. President Obama was elected to get us out of Iraq. That's why he was elected. He has done so, and now there's been the repercussion. And I'm not saying we don't have to do something about ISIS. Clearly we do. But it's not going to end well. It's not a talk radio thing. And I get frustrated when I listen to talk radio. All we have to do is bomb. Listen to Bill O'Reilly on Fox News. Every night it's the same thing. If we just bomb. Bomb what?
Yeah, because
bomb
there's
who?
civilians around there.
Right. There's always blowback. There's no country in the world that has the right to go in and just drop bombs on other countries unless it's in self-defense. And the president will say that we're defending ourselves now, etc.
Have both of you heard of the latest? Apparently we're kind of worried because ISIS seems to kind of... people from all over, men from the United States and even Europe are being taken by these people.
Oh, yeah.
They're being influenced by them.
In the last year, 70 journalists have been kidnapped covering war zones. We only know about a couple of them. Most of them, Syria, by the way, is the most dangerous country in the world. That's where 28, 29 journalists have been kidnapped, being held for ransom. Right. Exactly right. It's a horrible place. Let's just put it bluntly. The Middle East is a horrible place for Americans to be. It just is.
Hey, thank you
Absolutely.
for the call.
So we should stay out of there, especially reporters. Don't go there, Dennis.
Well, we can't stay out of there. I mean, we have to do something about ISIS, and we do need reporters over there so they can document and get back to us to let us know what's going on.
Right. Reporters, think about these reporters. They're all there voluntarily. Nobody forces you to go into a war zone. And so they are very brave men and women. What we cannot do is create a foreign policy, our policy, around reporters who are held for ransom and beheaded. You can't create a foreign policy around any individual.
Let's take a break and we'll talk about that on the other side. We're talking with Dennis Hart here. Connect with me, MeTV Fresno, 436 MeTV, option 11. Back in a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, my question is, even the Arab countries right now, I heard that it's very hard to get them to come in to help. And they're the ones that are most threatened. They're talking the big show, but they don't want to go in. And I can't see why, if the neighbors there don't want to get involved, why should we?
Yeah.
Now, I understand it could be a threat, and I think the way the president handling it is right. He's got a coalition now of some European countries that are going to be helping, but that wasn't easy to do. They're close, and they want to be, they should be the ones that should be involved. And,
Okay.
and with his, I mean, you could say there's no leadership, but he did. He's gone there, and he's got them. And just one more thing, how long, my question is, how long does a country have to stay in the country after they were defeated? We heard that they trained 400,000 Iraqi troops at Rand. Now, why should we get involved? Thank you.
You know, you bring up a very good point. Let's be blunt on this. The problem in Iraq isn't just that the United States pulled out, it's that the Iraqis failed to step up. They didn't take their own defense seriously. Also, Maliki did not form a coalition government. He acted on vengeance against his religious opponents. It's all falling apart because religious wars are the worst types of wars in the world, and that's what the Middle East is based on. Now, where the United States has to get involved, unfortunately, is they cannot allow ISIS. We cannot allow ISIS to gain so much territory that they have, as in Afghanistan with the Taliban, training grounds so that they can then export their terrorism to us. Be clear on why they're executing American reporters. It's to suck us into the Middle East. It's to get us to overreact so that they can then generate more recruits from around the world on their side. The worst thing any president can do is react to the beheading of these journalists and say we're going to bomb this or bomb that, because that sucks us back in.
Right, and there's a picture of James Foley right there before he was executed. You know, journalists go into these war zones, and Stephen Sotloff there as well last week being beheaded as well.
Yep.
You know, Dennis, nobody forces these journalists to go into these war zones. As you said, it's been happening since, what, the beginning of time. We've had reporters there. We all remember the Vietnam era. Walter Cronkite was over there. Dan Rather was over there. Take another call. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me, caller.
Yes, good morning. My comment and question is, we've been arming Israel now for about the past 60 years. They have a first-class army and air force. Why don't we use them to go in there and get ISIS out?
Well, because there are many reasons why. That would divert Israel's attention from the many problems it has on its own border. Israel's army is not set to export itself. It does not want to shed its blood or treasure. It would like the United States to do that. Israel has enough problems of its own. Iran getting potentially a nuclear weapon, the Gaza problem, which is a never-ending problem. Israel is in a day-to-day fight for its own survival. It has been for 60 years. Virtually every country in the Middle East, or many countries in the Middle East, simply want it to disappear, and they want to exterminate the people. We understand that. But I think to ask Israel to do a job that partly we're responsible for would be the wrong thing to do. We're the ones who made the decision. And when I say we, let me be clear on this. The American people made that decision. The American people elected Barack Obama, who promised to get us out of Iraq. He has followed through on that promise. He has not been disingenuous about that. That's why he's reluctant to go back in. Now we're going to go back in some form or fashion, not with troops. Not with troops, because the American people will not stand.
You never
up to
know. Don't say never.
No, I'll say never. Not under this president. And there is no chance that we're going to send 50,000 troops back to Iraq.
So what do we do? Let's put up the photos again of Foley, because you know what? We can't show this enough. Foley and Sotloff.
Right.
This is what we're being sucked into.
This is what they want us to get sucked into. This is why ISIS has done this.
But
why
this
do you
is
think
the bait. This is the trap.
This is the bait. That's right. They want us to overreact. They want American talk radio hosts like Rush Limbaugh to say exactly what they said. We should go in and bomb them. Bomb what? Bomb who? Bomb where? And what does that do? It generates worldwide reaction against us in the Middle East, creating more terrorists. It's a very delicate balance.
Dennis, I know you haven't been overseas to cover any particular war as a reporter, but you've been in the business a long time. The purpose of having reporters in a war zone, I mean, I was asked this question on the floor. Yes, I know what the reason is. I mean, you and I, we're broadcasting... what should you say?
Old savants.
Old, yes, exactly. Too old to talk about. Yeah. We know why they go in there. Explain to our audience why anybody would want to go in there.
Well, for heaven's sakes, I mean, as a journalist, you see your job to put the first rough draft of history out to the public. You're trying to educate people who have no... Since you and I cannot be in the Middle East, Sotloff and Foley went to the Middle East. Okay, that's why any reporter goes to the Middle East. Okay, or to any war zone, and it's not new. It's gone on for hundreds of years. The London Times sent reporters to cover Napoleon going across Europe in the 1800s. Why did they do that? Because they wanted somebody to be visualizing what he was doing. You have to have an impartial observer out there telling the rest of us, to the best of their ability, what is going on. How you want them to report the atrocities. You want them to report the victories. You want them to report the defeats. They're our eyes because we can't be there. It's a noble thing. Who wants... Think about this. And I thought about this yesterday, knowing we were going to be talking about it. I never wanted to go into a war zone. I would have been afraid to die.
Yeah, me too.
You know, I wanted to live.
But
But people go.
There are journalists and reporters with more courage than
That's
you
correct.
and I.
And let's be straight about that. It is a
Thank
courageous
God for those people.
Arthur Kent, when he was in the Middle East. In the Iraq War.
Remember that? Sure.
Yeah. And of course,
Scud missiles, remember?
Yeah. And of course, remember, we've talked about Dan Rather, Walter Cronkite, Morley Safer.
Morley Safer was over there.
They were under fire, folks.
I know.
That's
Remember him ducking?
Yeah.
I remember him ducking.
Yeah.
Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Well, I'm old, but I feel like ISIS is going to make Hitler look like Mary Poppins, and the world let Hitler go way, way too far. And I think people better take their heads out of the sand and wake up. And the president should just concentrate on this. Nothing about immigration, nothing else. So this is taken care of, or we're going to have another thing happen like we did in World War II. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, well, the next question, I wish the caller, and thank you for the call, I wish you had let me ask you one question, though, before you hung up. What would you like the president to do?
No, but Dennis, I see her point. Look, you had the Armenian genocide.
Sure.
1.5 million slaughtered, okay? You had the Jewish Holocaust. We sat back and did nothing. So there are those people out there that are saying today, are you going to let another day go by when a potentially... you know, Armenian genocide or Jewish Holocaust could take place?
Well, remember what's happening here.
Maybe it's already happening and we're not doing anything about it.
Well, what could we do about it? Okay, let's get really serious about this. Hitler decided he was going to eradicate an entire race of people. What did it take us to get rid of Adolf Hitler? How many people died in World War II? Between us, the Russians lost 10 million people.
How many years?
Right, it took 6 years, okay? So if I came to you right now, and I said, and we don't have, ISIS, by the way, ISIS is a religiously based fanatical group fighting other religiously based fanatical groups, okay? They're fighting each other. It's Islam fighting Islam over there. Now, we have a stake in it so that no one side gets a base over there to export terrorism to us. Now,
that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about, okay? Now, would anybody out there be in favor right now if the president announced on Wednesday night, we're going to send 150,000 American boys to be in harm's way in the Middle East to wipe out ISIS? You know what would happen in this country? I guarantee you, not only would Democrats erupt, Republicans would as well, okay? We don't want to lose 5,000 more people. Do we want to stop ISIS? Yes. We want to contain them. But are we going to wipe them out? No, you're talking about wiping out a religion. That's not going to happen.
Caller, are you there? Caller?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say before you start, you know, the only way to wipe out ISIS is to send troops over there. That might be the only way.
We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
That might be the only way, though.
Yeah, but we're not going to do that.
Okay, caller, go ahead.
Let me ask a real quick question of Dennis. I get that he knows a lot of issues, and I think he would be good in politics.
Well,
Dennis,
let me announce I'm running today for, well, thank you very much.
A lot of groups come to the United States, infiltrating a lot of schools with these young people, and I don't know what they offer them to go over there and fight for them, and to kill Americans. That's what I don't understand. You know, I mean, we're not going to get out of the wars anyway, like you say, too. The media is going to put out these pictures about the beheadings and whatnot. The people are going to be upset, whether the administration goes or not to get even. But my question is this: as Americans, we understand that there's terrorists all over, but to get our own people, young people, men and women, to fight for their freedom or issues, that's wrong. Okay. I mean, we have soldiers sacrificing their lives so they can get a better feel of freedom. And you can go around the world and you can never have a United States of America, but they depend on us to do all their fighting.
Yeah.
NATO doesn't do anything, that's for sure, and it leaves it only up to the United States to do the dirty work.
That is
so. I no matter what president is on office, it's a hard thing.
That's
but we lose so many young people, and getting other groups to do their job.
Thank you for the call.
Caller, that's a great point. Go ahead.
Thank you for the call, and thank you for your compliment about me, although you may misrepresent me in your own mind about how much I know about anything, but thank you. Let's be clear about what ISIS is all about. ISIS is about repealing the 20th century, the 19th century. They'd like to go back to about the 17th century. They are a brutal, they are a vicious, they are a killing group of people fighting primarily their group of people. Islam fighting Islam in the Middle East. They're also fighting modern times. They really would like to repeal the 21st and the 20th centuries. But your question was, how do they recruit American boys, primarily men, to go over there and fight with them? And we've had some cases. Let's be clear. There are many people in the United States, because we have a capitalistic society, there are winners and there are a lot of losers. We talk about the 1%. We talk about the Occupy Wall Street folks from a couple of years ago. There are a lot of people in this country who resent what they perceive as the inequity of the system, where a few people make a whole lot of money and a whole lot of people are poor. There are more poor people in this country than there are rich people. So you can get people come in to recruit them because the goal would be, well, we're going to equalize things. We're going to get rid of that rich segment of society, and we're going to more equalize it. That's
level the playing field.
Level of socialism is what it's called, but ISIS wouldn't call it that. That's why you're getting young people who say, hey, we have an unfair society. And to some extent, let's be real about this, it is a society that's loaded against a lot of people.
Dennis, another call. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air. Caller? Hey, caller, you there?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you're on the air, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes, we're talking about ISIS.
Yes.
And I can't understand, why are we going there? Why in the first place? I don't understand that. Obama needs to step down because he's a wimp and the government is a drag. Do you understand this?
I'm not sure I understood all of what
she called the
said.
president a wimp.
Yeah, well, that's obviously ridiculous. That's your opinion.
All right, but everybody has an opinion, Dennis.
But that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make the opinion correct.
But it doesn't make the other person's opinion right.
But see,
for the person who likes the president
when you say the president is a wimp, what would you like him to do now? Drop a few nukes on some people? Would that show that he's not a wimp? What would you like him to do?
I would like him to step up to the plate and not get back and get back and get back.
What does that mean, though?
Just go ahead and do it himself. Not wait until somebody tells him to do it.
Well, now wait.
That's the problem.
Well, let me ask you to clarify, if I may.
I see her point.
Let me ask you, if I may, respectfully. Again, you called him a wimp. Specifically, what would you like him to do?
I told you. I want him to step up to the plate, be a man, and do the things that he needs to do.
What does that mean?
Does that now? Let me ask you a question, ma'am. Let me ask you a question. Does that mean instead of being reactive, be proactive?
That means that take away the government, be a man, and know it as a people see him as people.
But what does it mean to be a man? What do you mean by that? What should he do?
I think he should do this. He should go to the government and say, I resign because I cannot force anything about this, because he is a bad thing to go across.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right. Thank you very much. Well, everybody has their, but there are those people, even, listen, you can't criticize the caller because there are people in his own party that don't think he's doing a good job.
No, but when you say that you want him to be a man and resign, is that what a man does? Is he resigns? Or does a man step up and say, I'm going to do the best job I can because I was elected to do this job? And I again bring back the point, and I'm not an Obama defender, and although I seem to be that today, trust me, I criticize him just as much as I praise him. I think he's been weak in a number of areas. But when you say he needs to be a man and then say he should resign, that's counterproductive.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, being a man. I mean, to me, a man or a woman win the Oval Office wouldn't make any difference. I mean, you still have to make decisions.
Of course. I mean, if Hillary Clinton were there, if Hillary Clinton were there, would you say she should be a woman? What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? I mean, I know we haven't had a woman president, but okay, we got to go to break. We'll talk about this on the other side. Back with more of Connect with Me in just a moment.
Considering solar? Whether you're ready to buy now or just exploring your options, the consultants at Solar Negotiators are here to help you. A call to Solar Negotiators is like calling 5 solar companies at once. You see, when local established solar contractors have gaps in their schedule, they call Solar Negotiators to fill them. Right now, get 5 years of panel cleaning and maintenance or $1,000 off your new solar panels. So stop wasting your time searching and call Solar Negotiators, because when contractors compete for your business, you win.
Oh boy, a big debate going on within the debate here at Connect with Me. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
The scenes here.
Hi, sorry.
You got it. Wait, whoa. Wait a second.
Hold on.
Turn down the set. Turn down the set.
Yeah, I was trying to. I didn't know you guys were on the air. The commercial was on. I was just holding to the commercial.
Okay.
Actually, and I have a little bit of problem getting feedback over hearing you guys over the phone with my sound turned down.
Quickly, hurry.
Okay, I'm calling regarding the last caller. I forget the guy, you on TV
Dennis.
smiling.
I'm Dennis.
Yeah, Dennis. I love watching Dennis. I didn't get to hear whatever he was talking about. I just heard the last caller. But define a man for me. Is it defined by ethics? Is it defined by machismo, where you want to go out and wipe out whoever with aggression? What makes a man?
Yeah, I think that's really
is
a great...
ethics as morals, or what?
That's a great...
What is to step up to the plate? What does that mean?
Exactly right.
All right.
That means to go to the plate, take your bat, and hit the ball out of the park, to me.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate the phone call.
Yeah,
very
I think
much. We're running short on time.
I know
quickly.
we are. Yeah, I don't think it's a sign of weakness for the President of the United States, whoever it is, to have advisors to counsel him, rather than whatever stepping up to the plate means. The President's going to be speaking on Wednesday night, but I also think, very briefly, that it's really a serious mistake to assume that the President of the United States or that this country can solve the world's problems, because clearly we cannot.
All right. Well, I want to get to another topic real quick about the NFL before we go, and that is the thing with the 49ers. They have the most arrests so far in the National Football League.
In the last 3 years.
In the last 3 years.
In the last 3
Ray
years.
McDonald, of course, he played on Sunday. Alden Smith, Kaepernick was in trouble to a certain extent with the young woman. Now, you have some breaking news about Ray Rice, running back for the Baltimore Ravens.
Video released just this morning on TMZ's website showing Rice inside that elevator punching the woman unconscious. Remember, he was suspended for 2 games, and we had video only from the outside where he dragged her outside in the elevator. Now we see, shockingly, exactly what he did. This is going to be...
What happened? What did he do?
He punches her in the face with a left hook, knocks her into the railing, unconscious on the ground.
She's out cold.
Out cold. Drags her out. Video released this morning. Let me suggest that this is going to create a major problem for the NFL. Clearly, Goodell did not respond appropriately the first time here, giving him a 2-game suspension. Clearly, his latest action saying, hey, anything that happens is going to be a 6-game suspension down the road here. Goodell's going to be forced to address this, because what it appears right now is that the NFL is full of thugs. And that's going to be, and the 49ers are in the forefront of that. And that never would have happened years ago with the 49ers.
And Alden Smith out for 9 games.
Right.
And you know, after Goodell came out last week and laying down the law as far as domestic violence is concerned, and now this Ray Rice video surfacing, and then the Ray McDonald is, I mean, I watched the Fox pregame show yesterday. They mentioned nothing about Ray McDonald.
This is going to be,
how is this harming the NFL?
It's harming them in a number of ways. Number one, it appears that the NFL condones domestic violence. It's going to turn off millions of women who would like to watch this, but are now saying, and you're seeing this reaction, why are these men being allowed to beat the heck out of us and nothing is a 2-game suspension for that?
Hey, for the 30 seconds, put up the picture of Michael Sam real quick. Did ESPN ruin his career by talking about him and his antics in the shower?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was injudicious on ESPN. That's ridiculous. Who cares what happens in the shower, okay? Clearly they were exploiting him. Clearly it's harmed him. You know, and here's a guy who has marginal NFL talent. I hope he has some sort of career, but who knows whether he's
Take
going to.
ESPN and the NFL and throw them out the window. At
Start,
this point.
Start over. Apologize. Apologize. And ESPN did.
Dennis,
Good to see you,
I wish we had 2 hours. We could do 2 hours today.
We'll be back next month to do it again.
We'll talk all kinds of stuff next week. Anyway, or next month, that is.
Next month.
All right. Another edition coming your way tomorrow. Connect with me. Have a great day, everybody.